I'm gonna stand for a minute if I could. Well, hello everybody. My name is Jim McGovern, and I hope to be your congressman after November. It's kind of clear for a little confusion over kind of the relationship here. Oftentimes I go to events in Washington, and people come up to me and they say, tell your father I'm a big supporter. I'm a supporter of your father. And then when I tell them that my father owns a liquor store in Worcester, Massachusetts, I keep supporting him. They get a little bit, kind of dazed. But I am so happy to see so many people here, and I'm so proud to be with my friend George McGovern. My first political experience was in 1972. I was in junior high school, and I was passing out literature in my neighborhood for George McGovern. On election night in 1972, I remember listening to my transistor radio and hearing the returns come in and being overjoyed that he comfortably carried Massachusetts. I was a little depressed over the other 949 states, but that's their problem. I continue to believe that this country and this world would be a hell of a lot better off today had George McGovern won and Richard Nixon won. When I went to college, I worked for him in his Senate office, and we have maintained a close relationship ever since. He really is my best friend. And I got to tell you, he's my political hero. He is not only the conscience of the Democratic Party, I think he's kind of the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Democratic Party. When I have trouble on an issue, I often try to give him a call or read something that he has written and to try to get some guidance. This is a guy who has enjoyed some great victories, but also suffered some pretty big political defeats. But he is one of the most idealistic individuals I have ever met in my life. And as he approaches his 90th birthday, I just want to say that I wish I had a tenth of his energy right now. And let me just close with this before I introduce him. The one thing I really admire about George McGovern, among many things, but the one thing that stands out is that throughout his entire career, he has been a steadfast and consistent voice for peace. And I want to tell you, and he's also been an outspoken proponent of trimming down our overbloated military budget. He understands that national security means jobs, it means housing, it means a clean environment. It means a whole bunch of other things than the number of missiles we have. So having said that, he's here, and I'm honored to be able to introduce to you the man who should have been President of the United States. And if he ran again, I'd vote for him right now, quite frankly. George McGovern.
I agree with every word of that, especially all the good things he said about me. Well, what shall I say today? I'm just tremendously happy to be back in Massachusetts, and especially this part of the state. I've walked around Northampton last evening and again this morning, and I don't know, it just seems to me that if there's such a thing as a heaven on earth, it must be here in Massachusetts. I was in a series of televised debates with the late McGovern F. Buckley, now deceased, and believe it or not, he and I became personal friends during that period. I didn't agree with much he said, and he didn't agree with much I said, but you know, I was reminded again that us human beings do have a bond with other people. But we were having a debate in the Cow Palace in San Francisco. Did you know there was such a place? You know, there was a guy from San Francisco ribbing me one day about the Corn Palace in Mitchell, South Dakota. And I said, look, we feed that corn to the cows, and that's how you got the Cow Palace in San Francisco. But anyway, when a bill was introduced to that San Francisco audience, he got a smattering of applause. I actually felt a little sorry for him. And then he introduced me, and it was an introduction something like Jim's, although maybe not quite that extravagant. But I got a great round of applause. So when Bill took the floor to deliver his opening part of the debate, he said, of course, I noticed the tenor of this argument. You're very lukewarm, to say the least, about Bill Buckley, and you're red hot for George McGovern. But he said, I just want to remind you that when this guy ran for president in 1972, he only carried the state of Massachusetts. The other 49 went with him. So I had to make a retort to that, and I said, you know, how many people in this auditorium think that if Bill Buckley had run for president, that he would have carried Massachusetts? I wrote this little book. I try to avoid these 900-page books. I have a lot of them on my shelves that I'm going to read someday. But this one is not all that big, and it has a very simple title, What It Means to Be a Democrat. What I've tried to do in this book is to say what the Democrats are for. I don't talk much about what we're against, although there are certain things that we oppose, but I'm getting a little weary these days of listening to these Republican candidates for the presidency, the fellow from Pennsylvania, and I can't, what's his name? Anyway, you know him. And Newt Gingrich, we all know Newt Gingrich, and the rest of them. They talk as though all evil goes out from the federal government in Washington, D.C., that all the troubles could be resolved if we just diminished the influence and the reach of the federal government. I don't agree with that. I'm here today partly because I came back as a bomber pilot from World War II and had this wonderful GI Bill of Rights. It's one of the great things the federal government's ever done. 8 million GIs who participated in that war. And I fully endorsed American participation in World War II. We had to stop Hitler. He was crazy, but he had the power to take over Europe, and we'd have been next on his list. We had to stop Tojo after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. We had to stop Mussolini, so I make no apology for participating in that war, although I have different view about most of the wars since then. But in any event, they had this great GI Bill, and we could go to any university in the country, and the government paid all the expenses, plus giving us a cost of living stipend. I had a wife and one child at that time, and we got enough to live on. It was pretty lean pickings, but I got through Northwestern University to a PhD in history, and I've treasured that education every day of my life. I just wish everybody in public life knew a little of our history. What that did was to permit 8 million young men like myself, young women, to go to any university in the country. If they wanted to go to Harvard, fine. If they wanted to go to Amherst, fine. They could go anywhere they wanted, and they got a good education. And you know, it cost an enormous amount of money. But you know something? It paid back to the federal government $2 for every dollar that they shelled out. Why? Because us college graduates, some of us graduate school graduates, for the rest of our lives we paid higher taxes than we otherwise would have, because we had more earning power. We were worth more to the economy, and so we paid more taxes, and the government reaped that. They still get it from me every year, and I'm paying now for as long as I can remember, and that's true with all the others. So it's that kind of thing that makes me appreciate the federal government. I'm glad we've got a Food and Drug Administration to make sure that our food and our drugs are safe. I'm glad that we have an education department to try to raise the standards of education. I'm glad that we have public assistance for people that are too poor or too handicapped or too down on their luck to support themselves. I'm glad even for things like the interstate highway system and so many other things that the federal government does. In South Dakota, we glory that we now have electricity in all the farm homes. Used to be, as a teenager, I learned to fly fairly early. I'd fly across South Dakota sometime at night, and I couldn't see a light anywhere. When you get to an airport, there might be a little beacon out there. But now we got electricity in every home. The REA, Rural Electrification Administration. It didn't cost the taxpayers much of anything. Those REAs pay for themselves. The government loaned them money at 2%, and they paid it back. And so now every rural state has the same kind of electricity that you have here. Well, those are the things I talk about in this book, what it means to be a Democrat. And I think I should sit down at this point and I'll start signing books. Thanks so much for coming.
Sorry I missed your call.
No, yeah, well,
I'll catch up with you.
Yeah, we're good. We're going to go good. Thank you for it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That was nice to meet you.
Mr. President, it's great to meet you. It's great to meet you. And I was 6 when my parents worked for you, but my daughter's about to turn 6. And I would love it if you could inscribe this to her. Yes.
I was named after her, Betty Davis. So can I shake your hand? Thank you for being such an inspiration. I was 16 years old when you ran, and I just, that's, you got into politics. So, thank you.
This gentleman who is for Andrew and Rebecca.
That first name was the name of Ted Sorensen's wife, Jillian.
Yes, I actually had seen that.
There you go, put that on the back.
He wrote all those brilliant speeches that Jack Kennedy.
She told him what to write. And this is just, if you could, just the first names are fine. Adam and Debbie.
For Adam and Debbie.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.
Honored to meet you, Senator.
You too.
My uncle was also in a B-24.
Was he really?
Not as many missions. His third one landed him in Davos, Switzerland.
You know that the average B-24
Nice to see you.
never got beyond 17 missions.
Yeah.
We had to fly 35. I finished all 35, but I got shot to pieces many times.
Absolutely. Universal health care is such an important issue, and I admire your work on hunger. I wanted to say that. I know.
And your name is?
My name is, could you put for Myrna and Bill? M-Y-R-N-A.
A TV show.
Hey, get behind. Get behind. Come on, Gigi, get back there. Oh my gosh. Now he's going to wonder where I went. Come on. Thank you. Gigi,
one more.
There you go. She won't believe it. Oh, God. Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to make sure what's your name on there? That's all right, fine.
My name is Elizabeth Silver. I'm chair of the Northampton Dems. In 1972, I was on a semester abroad in my junior year in England, so I went to the American Embassy to vote for you. There was a big party, and everybody there was voting for you.
That's a good story.
Yeah, it was a fond memory.
Well,
That'd be great. Good to see you.
Elizabeth Silver.
I used to know him, but I can't remember you.
We're so happy.
I ran into you when I had a boyfriend, and his parents were Democrats, the first Democrats of that prior generation I ever met. It changed my life forever. I didn't marry the guy, but I still talk to him. But I'll send him your picture tonight.
And did you say that you were with this kid?
Is he still?
Well, I did.
Oh, yeah.
I was.
Instead, I married her.
You did the right thing.
Absolutely.
June of 1972, I hitchhiked to School 1 in Elizabeth, New Jersey to hear you talk. Okay, so I was a junior in high school. This is my daughter Lauren, and it was very important for her to meet you.
How old are you?
I'm 12 in 7th grade.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Obviously, I'm a very good photographer.
So, but you have other skills.
Thank you so much, and thank you for writing this book and still being active. Thank you.
Could you make it out to Captain Sea Whiskers and Admiral Barkey? This is Admiral Barkey right here. This is my service dog. Captain Sea Whiskers and Admiral Barkey.
All righty, here we go.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Could you both just sign that? It's for our Democratic committee. We're going to...
This woman, Nicole LaChapelle, is one of the finest people, greatest Democrats I know. Yeah. Hey,
Hi there.
Yeah.
You too. I have something for you. I live here in Amherst. I'm a fiddle player.
Oh, wonderful.
Senator Harry, pleased to meet you. It's a great honor.
All-American basketball player.
I've played a little football.
That was what I was really thinking.
Oh, yeah?
These basketball players, they got so big and tough, I thought maybe it's basketball.
I'm more football, you know. I like to. I don't know. I know I don't look like it, but I tend to fool people.
That's okay there. If I could have that. I was wondering if I could get a picture. Dedicated to my dad, John, who was at your house in 1972 for a fundraiser. And I was going to just show you, this is a copy of the congressional record from 1970. My dad used to work for Silvio Conti. Oh, sorry. And said John Finn is not here and hasn't been here all day, and his wife delivered a 12-pound baby boy named Daniel Luke, which is myself. And,
wonderful.
Yeah, so it's from the Small Business Committee on Small Business.
Oh, that's
so
great. That's wonderful. What a great memento to have.
Yeah, politics and small business have been in my blood since the day of my birth. And
should I say one more word? I want to introduce a young woman who's been assisting me on these book signings and planning my schedule and getting airline reservations and all these other things that save me from headaches. Andrea, would you stand up? I was going to say this at the end, but I think I'll say it right now. If I had to name the best all-around member of Congress, I'd put Jim McGovern. I know that this election coming up in November will be the first time many have had to vote for him, because this area has not been in his district until now. But they looked at the voters out here and said, gee, that's the best people in Massachusetts. Jim McGovern. You're going to be delighted. He's a guy that doesn't let a letter lay on his desk much more than overnight before you get an answer. And if you have problems, take them up with Jim, and you'll find that while he's an expert on international issues and on the great domestic issues, that he also takes care of the day-to-day business of the congressional office. So, as I say, I had planned to speak about this after I signed books, but some of you may have to go before we get to that, and I wanted to take this opportunity to say there's nobody running for office this year that I feel any more confident about in terms of their integrity. You know, I've had 3 eyes by which I test people: integrity, intelligence, and imagination. And he's got them all.